Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a microscope to procedural mastery, looking at a piece of equipment that is so tiny you might overlook it.
You absolutely would.
Except its precise configuration can be the difference between a smooth procedure and, well, a really difficult one. We're talking about the endoscope cap.
It's a perfect example of how micro-precision leads to macro results. It's just a simple piece of plastic, but its effectiveness, it all comes down to geometry.
Geometry. Okay, so things like where its side hole is pointing and exactly how many millimeters it sticks out from the scope.
Precisely those two things.
Right. And for this deep dive, our source material comes from the fantastic expertise shared by Dr. G.S. Raju on his YouTube channel. We're really focusing on his lessons about foreign body retrieval and, the basic use of this cap.
It's a great resource.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We need to learn the two big rules for applying this thing. The rule of orientation and the rule of variable length.
And crucially, understand why those rules exist, the rationale behind them.
Exactly. We want to go beyond just knowing what the cap is to really mastering the how.
And understanding how just 2 millimeters of plastic can completely change the relationship between the scope and the patient's anatomy.
Okay, let's start with the basics of this gentle accessory. It's plastic, it's non-abrasive, but the key feature, the one that really governs everything, is that side hole.
That's right. That side hole is, you could say, the centerpiece of its passive function.
Passive function, what do you mean?
Well, it's built into the design specifically to allow for spontaneous drainage. It's a simple idea, but it manages fluid without the endoscopist having to constantly intervene.
I see. Okay, so before we even get to orientation, let's talk mechanics. How do you get this thing on there so it doesn't slip mid-procedure?
It's surprisingly simple. It really just relies on friction. First, you moisten the cap a little bit.
Right.
That helps create a secure fit. Then you place it firmly on the tip of the endoscope and just press down.
Until it anchors.
Until it anchors. It needs to be snug.
And what if you need it to stick out a bit longer for a certain procedure, more than it naturally would?
That's where you start to see the technique come in. Dr. Raju mentions that if you need a significant protrusion, some endoscopists will actually use surgical tape to fix it in place.
Wow, so they're really treating it like an adjustable tool, not just a fixed piece of hardware.
Absolutely. The exact position is a critical adjustable variable.
Okay, that attention to detail is something else. Now let's get to the big rule, orientation. The cap has the side hole, the scope has the biopsy channel. I'm guessing you can't just slap it on any which way?
You cannot. There's a reference point you have to know. When you look at the endoscope tip, the biopsy channel is almost always at the 12 o'clock position.
12 o'clock, that's your North Star.
That's your North Star.
And the rule says the cap's side hole has to be positioned away from that. So if the biopsy channel is at 12.
The side hole needs to be opposite, ideally right at the 6 o'clock position. The rule is absolute on this, side hole away from the channel.
But that feels a little counterintuitive to me. The biopsy channel is for suction, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense to put the side hole nearby, maybe at 11 or 1 o'clock? That way, if fluid collects, you've got the suction right there as a backup.
And that is the critical distinction between passive drainage and active suction. It's all about fluid dynamics inside the organ.
Okay, break that down for us.
During a screening, fluid is going to pool by gravity in the most dependent position, the lowest point.
Which would be the 6 o'clock position.
Exactly. So if you put the side hole there at 6 o'clock, any fluid that accumulates just spontaneously drains right out.
So it's like a passive overflow valve. It's just always working.
It's always working. Now, think about the alternative. If that hole is not there to drain the fluid, the operator has to rely on the 12 o'clock biopsy channel for suction.
And what happens when you hit the suction pedal in a confined space like the colon?
The wall of the colon immediately collapses right onto the scope tip.
Oh, wow.
You completely lose your view. You have to stop, reinflate, reposition, and start over. It just breaks the flow of the entire procedure.
Whereas with the 6 o'clock hole, the fluid just takes care of itself, the lumen stays open, and you can keep moving.
And you maintain visualization. It's an elegant, low-tech solution to maintain perfect optical conditions.
So it's a time saver, a visualization enhancer, and it prevents the anatomy from collapsing.
That is the perfect summary. It's the quiet little detail that makes the difference between a frustrating exam and a smooth one.
Okay, so that's rule 1, orientation. Now for rule 2, length. It sounds like the cap's protrusion isn't a one-size-fits-all deal.
Not at all. It's a tool that you adjust based on the task. We basically have the short length and the long length.
Short for screening and long for intervention.
Intervention and stabilization, exactly.
Let's start short. When do you want the cap to stick out just a couple of millimeters?
For any routine screening, like a standard colonoscopy, the ideal protrusion is only about 2 to 3 millimeters from the scope tip.
And why is shorter better for screening?
You just don't want it to be cumbersome.
Okay.
When you're trying to navigate tight spots like entering the ileocecal valve, which can be tricky, you want the scope to be as agile as possible.
I see.
That 2-3 millimeter gives you the benefit of a steady view without adding any real bulk or resistance. It's sort of the Goldilocks zone for just looking around.
Okay, so quick, agile, minimal protrusion for screening. Got it. Now, when do we switch gears and go for the maximum length?
Anytime the job changes from just looking to actively doing something.
Right, therapy or stabilization.
Right.
Yeah.
Or accessing a really hard-to-reach lesion. In those cases, you want the cap to protrude at least 3 to 4 millimeters.
1 or 2 millimeters doesn't sound like a huge difference, but I imagine inside the body, that completely changes the scope's leverage.
It absolutely does. Take a polyp that's sitting on a difficult fold. With a short cap, you're constantly struggling for the right angle.
You can't get a good look at it.
But when you extend the cap to 4 millimeters, it allows you to literally sit on top of the fold and look down.
Ah, so it creates a stable platform.
A stable platform. It gives you physical distance and a clear vantage point for whatever therapy you need to do, like a resection.
It's like giving the operator the advantage of height, moving the camera back just a bit so you can work from a stable position.
And that functional stabilization is used all the time in more advanced maneuvers, long after the screening part is over.
Let's dive into those. Where else is that 3 to 4 millimeter protrusion used as an anchor?
A classic example is at the very end of a colonoscopy, when you're examining the lower rectum and the anal canal.
Okay.
After the main exam is done, the operator will often manually pull the cap out just a little to make sure they have that 3 to 4 millimeter extension.
And how does a longer cap help there?
It's about friction and volume. The extended cap gives you more surface area contact, which helps stabilize the scope in that final section of anatomy.
So you can do a more detailed, slow, secure exam.
Exactly. In an area that's otherwise really prone to scope movement, it basically acts as a physical brake.
Fascinating. What about in the upper GI tract? I've heard about the scope popping back during work in the duodenum.
Oh, that's a perfect demonstration of the cap as an anchor. The scope often wants to recoil backwards out of the duodenum and into the stomach.
So you're constantly losing your working position.
Constantly. It's a huge frustration. So to stop this, you extend the cap to that longer length.
And then what?
The endoscopist can use the physical lip of that longer cap to hook onto, to anchor onto the pyloric ring.
The little valve between the stomach and the duodenum.
Exactly. It provides a fixed point. It completely stabilizes the scope so you can do your work without it slipping back. It's like using the patient's own anatomy as a hitching post.
That is the difference between working on a moving platform and one that's locked down.
Control is everything.
And we have to talk about foreign body retrieval. The source material mentions it specifically. How does this simple cap help there?
Well, for general retrieval, the stable tip is key. But for a specific emergency, like an esophageal food bolus obstruction, the sources point to using a specialized version.
A different cap.
A band ligator cap.
And why that one?
Because it has a much longer barrel than the standard cap. That extra length is essential. The endoscopist guides the scope down to the food blockage.
And then?
And then the long barrel of that cap is used to contain the food. You literally suction the food bolus into the plastic tube of the cap.
Wow. So it becomes an extraction cylinder.
Precisely. Once the food is trapped inside that longer cap, you can pull the entire assembly out scope, cap, and food and resolve what could be a life-threatening obstruction.
This whole deep dive has really been a masterclass in why the tiny details matter so much.
It has.
We've got this simple plastic cap, but its function completely changes based on 2 rules. Side hole opposite the biopsy channel for drainage.
And no lumen collapse.
And then meticulously adjusting the length. 2 to 3 millimeters for agile screening, and 3 to 4 for therapeutic anchoring.
It's a powerful lesson. Procedural control isn't just about the fancy camera or the flexible scope. It's about leveraging these low-tech, high-precision tools.
And mastery means knowing that a single millimeter or a specific orientation dictates whether you're fighting the anatomy or working with it.
That's it right there.
And that really is the definition of excellence. So that brings us to a final provocative thought for you to consider. This cap can go from being a passive viewing aid to an active extraction tool for a life-threatening emergency. If this simple, non-powered piece of plastic can provide such a huge mechanical advantage in gastroenterology, what other minimalist, highly engineered tools are quietly revolutionizing other fields? Think about micro-robotics or deep-sea exploration. Maybe it's the power of elegant design, not brute force, that's really driving innovation.